Starting. Okay, in the last session we have seen how to use the database, how to implement simple web services to retrieve all the customers in the database. So this is let's try to run the service again. So we'll see whether still the working or not. So it is loading. Yes, I can able to see some customer data is returning. So now what we will do is we will add one more customer, we will add one more service that what that will going to do is if you pass customer ID, it's supposed to retrieve the specific customer details. So that part we'll see this one. So let's add one more service similar to this one. So there is nothing much difficulty in this. So let's quickly do follow to the demo. Okay, now let's say demo. So get customer ID. And then now let me go for database. Let me go for sorry, not this one. In this one, so this is nothing is different. So let me see whether. So always whenever we are doing right, we need to make sure that say if you know if this particular operation might be referencing in some other one, if you change here it will reflect otherwise also. So if you know how to see whether there is anything is referencing or not, if any component is reference or not, you can just click on here, show where used. Okay, so it automatically shows you like how many, what are all the possibilities and all where in which process and all the things. You can see that it is using a db2 file under processes and it is using get all customers. So I don't want to touch this one, so that if I touch, other things will be get impacted. So what I'll do, I'll just copy this one. I'll just copy this one. I'll copy this and paste it in the same folder, and maybe I can give something like get customer by ID. So what exactly this means copy component dependence. You can see that you can copy the process, you can copy the profile, you can copy any component. As the name says, is copy component. It means that if you copy a component, right, inside the component you might have many things might be there. Connection will be there, operation will be there, you know, map component will be there, operation. It means if you are having any component, if you are copying any component that has any child components, then this thing will be enabled. Copy component dependent. It means if you copy a process and this checkbox is checked, inside process whatever things is there, everything will copy a replica. If you uncheck this one, right, so wherever you copy if you copy A to B, all even B process also will refer everything from A. If you anything change in B, it will impact even in A. If you want to make two separate copies, individual copies, so if you change A, it should not impact B, then you should use this one. In this case, what exactly we are going to do is an operation, right? In the operation, we do have one profile. Okay, in the operation, we do have one database profile. So the database profile also I wanted to make a change, so I don't want to impact other things. That's why I'm using this one, copy component dependence, so that I can have two different copies running at the same time. Okay, now let's go to clear and clear the list all, so that I'll get more ID here. So here, go ahead, and if you want to see, right, this thing will not be used anywhere because it's it's not being used anywhere. Now what I'm going to do here is select from customer. Customer ID equal to some parameters. We already saw how to use a prepaid parameters, all that stuff. Okay, so here what is here, it is a number. Okay, I'll also specify this as a number. Okay. You can see since the profile already there, it's just created a copy because of the checkbox, right? It created a different copy. created a different copy, and it's giving name 2, 3, 4 default, whatever the name is there. For that, it keep on increase the sequence if it's as a default format. Default format. So now let's save this one. Let's click on save and place. So here I want to select the customer by ID here. Let's go this one. Okay. Now I should be in a position to pass the parameters now. Now what I need to do is, Arish, okay. Let's keep this one. So this one is no. So I am going to use this as a child process. Instead of using a web service server connector. First, let's check this one. Let's see the map here. So once if you pass a specific customer ID, you'll get the customer specific to that list, specific to that particular customer information. Now let's click on plus map shape, database profile. Here we need to select 2. Okay, that has the parameter, and here XML. Let's go for the same XML. Don't touch any other things. Go for the same XML. So whatever it is fine. So we can just go further. Let's click on save and close. Let's click on save and close. Okay, now let's pass. Let's use the return shape here. Maybe what I can do is stop. So for time being, what I'm going to do is I'll just pass a parameter. So to see how it's running, so that later on I'll just run it. Okay, now let me just go ahead and let me pass this one as a, this is the value I'm going to pass this one. Okay, you need to select the parameter. Okay, we didn't name anything. Okay, fine. So what I am going to do is I am going to refer this sub process in the parent process, so that I can reuse this process. I can pass any customer ID at runtime. The parameter what I passed here is a static value I passed it. So I'll show you how to pass a value runtime, so that it will how we can reuse this process whenever you want to retrieve the customer information by specific ID. And now let's see. You can see that you want specific to that particular one. It's already given. So some date is not coming. I don't know. We'll see that one later. But why data is not coming? Okay, now we are getting this information. So now let's click on save. Okay, let's click on save. So let's create a new process. Get customer by ID underscore service. It's the process name. Web service. Let's click on the folder. So what we are going to do here is we are going to create the web service server connector. So let's keep it the same one. Get customer by ID. Expected input, yes, we need to pass input. What is the input we need to pass? We need to pass a customer ID. How do you want to pass? There are the few options where you can use which options you want to use. See, generally the way how the naming convention, the URL formation, right? First thing is either HTTP or HTTPS, after that colon, then double slash, then it will be a host name, then colon, then again port number is optional here. Okay. Then after that, some naming, we can call basically that one as a request URI. Then if anything you sort with a question mark, all after question mark everything will be a name value pair. Name value pair in the sense it's a key one is equal to value, and then again it would be more than, if more than one you need to use key 2 is equal to value, This is the how the URL should be there. So now, if you want to pass the customer ID, this is of whatever you see after question mark. We'll call this as a query parameters or query string. We can call it as query string in the sense everything will be considered as a string, or query parameters in the sense query string. We'll call it as in general. So here always query string will be name value pair. Would be a name value pair. So if you want to pass a customer ID, if you want to pass a customer ID in the query path, yes, this is also possible now. Or if you don't want to pass, not you don't want to pass as a query string. So what you can do is you can also specify the body. The body also you can specify. So most of the things, right? Most of the things, these query parameters will only applicable when you're using a method called get method. This get only you will use this query parameters. If you want to send anything in a body, right, you will be using the post methods. So the main thing why we need to use what the difference between get and post, right? Whatever you use, if you are using get, right, everything will be in your URL. Everything will be in URL. And one problem with this one is no security, because everything visible on the URL. So if you just go to any website, if you're just showing something your name, if you might have entered username and password for the services, you're accepting is input username and password. If that everything is visible on the URL, right? It's no security will not be there. Other thing is by default as per the norms, right? So the length of the URL, web URL restricted length, maybe something 255 characters, something will be there, or some 2 KB something, the length is there. Maybe you are restricted length. So this is the main problem. One is security, everything will be visible on the query parameter. Other one you have restrictions. The post, what happens, right? It's not going to send in URL. All these things will go to how this one is overcome here is it will be going to send in body. This information it's going in body post. So since it is going in body, right? So there is no restriction in the URL part. So this is how it overcome. So if you correlate these things, right, get is generally used for whenever you want to do some query things, you use get. Post is generally used for you want to either create or update something, you'll use it. But we have a different HTTP verbs are there. HTTP verbs are something like yeah, get is just stands for retrieving, okay, and post is for create. So if you want to anything you want to create, you use a post. Put is for update. We have delete also there. You want to do for delete operation. These are the when we are aware of REST APIs. So these are the naming conventions they followed are not naming convention. It's HTTP verbs. Get means it only used for the for query purpose. You are not supposed to use get as a method, and you are not supposed to do something like create or update something like that. Get is only for retrieving purpose. These are the general webs we are using HTTP web standard webs. There are many other things are there, but mostly we will only come across this one. Other one is patch also something will be there. It's also will be there, but we will see this one. So now when it comes to difference, it's the same difference. Even put also is very similar to the post. Now we'll see the query parameters. So later on we will see the how we can pass in body. Okay, now first we'll see how we will pass the query parameters. So since we are passing query parameter, we don't expect anything. The response, yes, we can use the same one what we were using that one. Same one you use it. After that, I'll enhance these things to. I'll enhance this to post one, not post one basically. I'll show you how to use this one as a for passing the parameters. Debless. Okay, now let's see. Save and close. Now you can call how you can call the child processes based on the process call. You can use a process call so that you can call the another process. Get customer by ID. Okay. So in the get customer by ID, you are going to get customer by ID. We are going to select this one. And now let's select this one. Okay. selected. Okay, it is asking any parameters you want to pass to any child parameters. Yes, you can go and pass the parameters here. Okay, you can see since this is a start shape, since this is a start shape, since this start shape has one parameter is there, it is asking for parameter. Okay, now you can see, but instead, right, so what happens, I think whatever you're passing in parent process, it will not be accepted in the child process input. I'll show you this one. Okay, now let me select the parameter. This parameter we define in the database connector start shape operation, operation level. Now let's same pass the same query parameters, whatever we passed here. Let's pass this one and execute. Let's see the how child process execution will happen. We pass this one. We specify this. You can see as of now you don't see any output transition here, because is you don't see any output transition in the sense you cannot proceed execution further. What are there are the cases where if you want, let's say you want to just send out an email, you might be using this process for sending out an email alert, then you don't need to anything come back to the parent process. But there are the cases, let's say we are using this one, to retrieve, to return some data. So if you want to return anything to the parent process, you need to use a return shape. We already saw return shape. One use case is whenever you want to return the web services response to the client, we will use return shape. And other use case would be whenever you want to return anything from child process to the parent process. Since I added return shape, right, you will be getting the transition here. You can see. And if you add as many return shapes, you will get as many transitions. Let's say you can just duplicate it. Okay, don't do anything. You can see this. As soon as you select this one, save. Okay, you can see that, because you might be using maybe one for success, one for error, something like that. Okay, now I'm just removing this one. Just stop shape now. Now let's see. Since it's web services one, let's stop this one. So we'll see the how the parent execution will be, parent and child execution will be happening. Then we will see. We'll deploy this and we'll pass this to a sub process. Okay, now you can see sub process is executed, and let's see the output of sub process. Then we'll dig into the sub process, how the sub process is looking like. You can see now we are able to see this. Let's go back. Let's go ahead.
So any process can be converted to sub process, or sub process is like just we have to define the a process inside that process shape.
Anything. See, just this is process call is just for referencing the existing process. Any process can be called except web services process. Because web service process, you cannot trigger the web service. Whenever you configure start shape with web service server connector, you cannot call that process as a web service sub process.
Okay. Now I can use the process like DB insert whatever we have earlier did.
Everything.
All the process I can do it.
Yeah, you can use everything except the processes. Start shape has the web services server connector, or any connector that has a listen option. Because listen, when you what exactly the process call is doing, it is starting a execution. Right? When your process call is executed, it is starting the child process execution. But whenever the action is listen connector action listen, that is automatically starting. That is event based things. It's not, you're not supposed to start the process. So that's why also we'll also see when you browse also those things will not be visible. I'll show you this one. We'll click on process call. So when you click on process call on the process call shape, it will navigate you to it will redirect you to the child process execution. So you can track complete child process, what exactly it's coming and everything, how you can see everything. Okay. Once you go back to parent process, drop down, click on parent process name. You'll go back to the parent process. Okay. Now let's see this one. Okay, let's try to see the demo. We have some web services connectors are there. Get all customers is there. Let's try whether this one will be executed or not. Let's try this one. I don't think it will be. I don't think it should not be start executing. Even if you executed, its outcome would be something different. Let's see this one because get all customers. Let's clear off this. Go for processes. Get all customers is the one. This is the one. It has a web service server connector is there. So it is waiting for request. It's waiting for request. So ideally you are not supposed to start this kind of a thing. So you can see, let's go back to the child process execution where it is stuck in. So yeah, usually it will not take that much time. I think since it's a web service process and it did not started execution at all. It did not started execution at all. That's why it's taking this much time. It just will hang out. Okay, you are not supposed to call that processes. Ideally, this should be restricted from booming in itself. I don't know why they allowed this option. So any option they might have given, not sure this one. So now at this moment, we'll just go back and start this. You can see two options. Wait for process to complete. Abort if process fails. It means wait for process to complete. It means what exactly it is saying that until your child process gets executed, parent process will not proceed for this particular shape execution will not be completed until your child process gets completed. It means you're calling the child process synchronously. You're sending you're starting execution, you are taking the response, you're taking the output of the sub process. Until that, you are not making this particular shape, is the execution will not be gets completed. These things. And if you just uncheck this one, right, what happens? It just kind of an asynchronous. It just triggers the sub process. You just ignore it. You will not have option. If you are using these options, right, you might have two things. Either you might have initially you might have started the process and put the result in a cache or somewhere, and then in maybe second or third or fourth step somewhere you can just get that one. But still there is one problem with this one. You are not, so if your child process execution is not completed by the time you are trying to get the data from your cache, then it's improper results will be get. So most of the times will be used whenever you don't want to return anything from child process to parent process. You just wanted to trigger the execution of the process, then only you'll go for this one and check this one, so that it will execute in separate thread. This execution will be in separate thread if you want to uncheck this one. So now let's keep this one, and then whenever you change this one, let's move this. Okay, now let's enable the web services processes. As of now, if you see what I am doing is we are just passing the parameters manually here, right? Passing parameters manually, right? So if you are passing a query string by query string, what exactly you need to specify is a dynamic process property you need to specify. Dynamic process property you need to specify. Whenever you send something request, right? Host name, port number, and key name is something like cust ID, something you send it as a 186 something you send, right? 185. Then what happens? Boomi will automatically create a one dynamic process property with this name. The name would be here would be a dynamic process property here. It would be a cust, not a cust. First it will be query underscore. Then whatever the property name you gave. Whatever the property name you give in the URL, with that name, they will appending the name with the query. So there is a one dynamic process property will be gets created. Okay. Now let's if you want to print that value also, you can just print this one, notify, so that you can see in the log once you enable this one. Dynamic process property query underscore. Okay, so what what you can do is you can just deploy this process. Enable this one connector. Sorry, it will be web service server connector. Okay, so now let's so and one more thing, whenever you are deploying any parent process, you don't need to deploy separate child processes. A parent process will automatically deploy the sub process, and you don't see the sub process gets deployed, but child process deployment is not required unless until your child process is always invoked from the parent process. Even if you want the possibility that child process itself can be scheduled or it can start independent of the parent process as well, then only you need to deploy the child process. If always the child process want to trigger via parent process, you don't need to deploy child one. So now let's click on this one. I'm going to deploy this one. Dev. Now this one is deployed. Okay. Now what we can do is we can just go ahead and trigger the get one. Get one. Now let's go back to the build tab. This one URL would be a something different, right? So let's go back this one, WS simple customer by ID. Okay. And if you just pass this thing, right? Just pass these things. Hold on a second. We need to since we didn't pass anything, right? Since we didn't pass anything, it did not return anything. You can see content length is 0, but you can see success 1. What happens is you passed it here, you didn't pass anything from here. So output, if you see the execution, you will get to know. Process reporting. You can see get all customers. Is that one is just triggered. Now it's 954. This is triggered now. Okay. After you trigger this one, you don't see anything here. Let's click on here. The notify shape, it might have not printed anything because I didn't pass any query parameter in the URL. You can see customer ID is empty. Since because of that, child process symbol will be this one. And this one will be event listen, means all listen actions will be having this symbol. This is a sub process. Just a quick identification for saying that the child process quick identification of the child process. You can see database connected, nothing is resulted. So now what I'm going to do is, since I have added this custom parameter here, let's go back here. Always, as I mentioned, request URI. What I mean to say request URI means this one after host name port number. Question mark, cust ID. What is the value I wanted to pass? I wanted to pass the value. Is equal to, let's see. Now we will see why it is not getting printed. Okay. Now let's go back here. This time process should have get triggered. Okay. 956. This is the one. So now let's click on. Before that, let's click on this one. Let's review the log because we printed the log. Yes. Now this time it is accepting the value gets printed. Now let's see why the child process did not accept the data. Yes, child process also returned some data. Okay, I understand now why this thing is happened. Because we didn't mention that we need to return, right? We didn't mention at all. Return document is not there. When return document is not there, you will not return anything. Means Bhumi doesn't know that I need to return the response back to the client. Since you did some changes, you need to always deploy this one. It's already deploying now. You can go back and click on this thing now. You should get the response now. Okay. Now if you're just passing the other things like 1988 something, still you should be in a position to get this value. Okay, we're able to get this one. So the problem here is whenever you specify get, right, whenever you specify get, you don't see the body option. You cannot set anything in the body. As I mentioned earlier, there is no body here. When you use post, you'll have a body here. Okay. Now we will just change a little bit, change of this one. We just pass in the request. So what are we passing here? We'll just pass in the request now. Let's go back a little bit modification. We just copy paste the existing process. Name, copy, and I want I don't want okay, so let's go and do this one. One second. We are not going to change this one, so what we are going to do is let's go a bit little bit different from this one. Copy, copy, body. Say something. Something I can just say like, don't copy anything. It will do many things of it. So later on I'll just modify this one. So now let's close this. Open this one. Only thing what we need to do is, since it is referring some get customer by ID, so what I'll go is I'll just copy paste copy. Yes, in this one the only response profile is there. I don't want it to be duplicated again. Like I can refer the same one because I don't change anything in the response profile. Get customer by ID. Request profile something I'm just mentioning that. Only thing the reason is I did not make entire copy of this one is again this process also gets copy pasted. If I check the checkbox while copying the process, again this everything each and every component will get just duplicated. I in this particular use case I just want to only change in these things, no other than that. That's why I didn't copy all the components when I'm copying the process itself. It'll have entire things will be copy pasted. Okay, now let's click on this one. This one. Okay. So here what I need to do is change this to maybe query something. Okay, maybe okay. Request profile, single XML profile. We'll define a one XML profile, very simple XML profile. Something like get customer by ID and ID. just for request purpose. I'm just passing the inside this. What is the element I defined is first ID. What's the value I wanted to pass is 188. Let's see this one. So now what is a little bit change is required in my process here is I just changed this part. Anyway, that is not going to impact anything. I just added a new profile. Whenever they send a request in body, the data will come in this profile format. So for that, what I need to do is let me test. Okay, then in that case, right, I not get this value at all. So I need to get the value using the profile element. JSON, so not JSON, it's XML. This one, and then I need to select the customer ID. Okay, so since I could not able to run in local, right, with the web service server connected, what's the best practice always the people will follow is they'll change this to no data, and whatever the request data comes from the client, that expected format they'll pass it in the request in the message shape, and then just trigger it here. That's how is the general practice they'll follow most of the times. So if I just only thing is even in deploy only I'll get the request, right? So instead of getting the request from the other parties, why can't we just put it in the message shape so that I'll get the same kind of request will be passing, and with that request I'll want to see the execution how it happens, so that you can entire thing you can debug it in local. And this time is I'll going to show you. Okay, now let's see whether it's. Okay, now it's working. It means this one is working, the service is working fine. So now let me remove this one, web service server connector, sorry, message shape, and let me go back this one. This one is web services. So overall what we are trying to do here is what we did so far here is initially we have created a new operation that accepts the query parameters. That one we saw, and now this time is we are accepting a different way for the query using the post as a mechanism, because if you use a get, right, you cannot send anything in the body. That's why we need to use for the post or whatever it is. Now let's click on save. Okay, save. Now let's click on deployment. It's a new deployment. Okay, save and close. Save and close. You can even go and see whether it's deployed as deployment has happened or not. Go for item management. We already saw these things. Go for the queue, deployed processes. You can see the other one also there. So in order to trigger this process, what we need to do here is I need to copy paste this one, another tab, but here let's go back here, build. Let's change this one here. Request URI would be customer by ID. Okay, so the username password would be the same one. You can just click on update so that you'll get click on here. So next thing is what we need to do is we need to send in the body. So since when I'm using get, it's not get enabled. Let me change this to a body. Maybe I can just put something like patch, what. So you can see all these options are there, but Boomi is not going to use all these things. Most of the things what we are going to use here is get, post, put, patch, delete. Maximum this 5 will be using. Now let me send the post so that I can say post, put also body is there, and a patch. Because all these kind of similar kind of things, even delete also. Only for get only we're not able to see, because all get is only, it not accept anything in input. It's only just meant for the. Now let me raw data. Okay, I want to select the raw data and I want to pass an XML data here. So now let me click on XML that I captured in here. Copy. Now post, you can see these things, you can see this one. So as of now we did not put any restriction what method it should be used. You can see even to put also it will work. Even you can see for delete, patch, everything it will work because we did not enforce method. Patch is not defined, RFC is not supported by a servlet API. So, okay, something is wrong, we are not supported. Delete, you can see we did not restricted anything from our web services saying that okay, I only need a post method, I only need a patch method, I don't need delete method, something. I did not have any such kind of restriction enabled. So if you just go ahead and see this one, right? If you post process reporting generally basically you can see the executions. So you can see the executions here. You can see the success. Success means what request it comes to you. You can able to see here, and what response you are able to get it. Still you will able to see the return shape. You can go back, click here. You can see the return shape. Return shape you will able to see the what response is generated. So with this one, we were able to. So far, what we did is we were able to call a web services using a simple option. You can see as a document says simple URL path, SOAP URL path. I mean, we have two options: simple URL path, SOAP URL path. So far, you are only calling always with the SOAP simple one, not touch the web services SOAP one. So let's touch this one this time. Let's see. Last time we already discussed about the web services one, right? So let's go back here. Go to this one, host name, and then if you are using SOAP, you need to use this is the one. After that, you just need to use WSDL question mark WSDL WSDL. So you should be getting the complete response. As I mentioned initially, right? You can see port type can be minimize everything. Okay, port types can be one port type can have any number of operations. So you can see get all customers one process deployed, get customer ID one process deployed, query customer by ID another process is deployed. It means each operation has a one process that I already discussed when we were discussing about the visual information. And if you come down here, input, there is no input closed here. This one also closed here. And if you see this one, there is an input is there. Input is defined here. Okay, WSD input, query customer by ID. All these things will be messages. You can see the messages here. For these things, all customers get customer by ID. You don't see anything here. Okay, this one is message get all customers. You can see no value here. Just only one element is empty element is there. Even for get customer by ID is another thing. This one also empty. We didn't specify anything. But if you see get customer query customer by ID, you see that there is a structure would be there here. Okay, query customer by ID and parameters is there. But actually these values, right? These values are coming from the different XSD that define here. Whatever the XSD what we are talking about here, that will be there in here. That would be there in here. This is a structure it's internally referring. As I mentioned, include, import, all the thing I told, right? This is the include everything. You can see here what the message referred element is referred here. Get all customers. Okay, nothing is there here. Okay, now go back to the get customer by ID. Sequence empty. So here is one more thing is query customer by ID. You see query customer by ID. You can see some element is defined. You can see that. And complex type is defined. Get customer by ID is well. Inside again customer by ID, you will see that one more schema is defined here. Inside this, you will have a structure here. Like this. So that's the reason I initially explained what is XSD, all the things. The problem with this one here is you might want to only expose this particular get all customers only for X customer. You might only one person need to customize send it to the get customer by ID is a Y person, and get query customer is the one you need to expose to Z person. You don't want to X should be accessible Y Z. You don't want Y should be accessible X Z. Something that one. In that case, what you need to do is you need to edit this visible. You need to remove all these operations. You want to own the first operation there, you want to remove all these corresponding entries. Body, everything will be there. And this is the one problem, and you need to customize the visible. Another option is why we are customizing it. Boomi is not going to generate a visual for every service that we are deploying. Boomi is generating a visual for all the services that deployed on an atom for one visual. So for what, how many services deployed in here? Here deployed the 3 services, right? 3 services deployed. In all the services, whatever deployed on this particular atom, only one visual will be generated. But we are not supposed to give one this concrete, and I can say consolidated visual to them, so that they will get all the services get will be consumed. But if instead they might be required only 1 or 2 services. If they really required, then we need to do the customization of all these things. Then it will be very big difficult for the developer, unless until developer is very much comfortable with that XML, XSD, all the things. So this is one problem. Other problem is you cannot change this request URI path. It's always will be host name port and then nameless soap. You cannot change this thing. These 2 things can be overridden, overcome by the API component that we'll discuss in the next session. That will be discussed in the next session. So that, but here is what I wanted to say is, as I mentioned initially, SOAP UI, right? Even you can Python, you always testing it from the Postman. But generally, Postman is whenever you want to send simple request. But if you don't know the structure of the visual, you don't know the structure of your request XML, right? Then how do you do that? So SOAP XML, the SOAP UI comes in handy. SOAP UI comes in handy. It's open source tool. You can use it. So by giving the visual, it automatically generates the request whatever is request. Request structure itself is generated. So let's see that. You can download the Excel version. Since I don't have installation permission. So what I did, I just downloaded zip one. Okay, even you can install the SOAP UI everything. Let me go ahead and run the SOAP UI back. How it looks like. If you want, you might have direct have access to install this one. So I'll show you this one. So that if you don't know, whenever you have visual, always most of the people will go for the SOAP UI. So it will have the more options. So you can see you can change endpoint URL, you can run it. You have many options will be there. Maybe you can just click on new SOAP or create new SOAP project, whatever it is. Create new SOAP project. These are the options. These are shortcuts. SOAP, REST, import, all these shortcuts. Now you can just whatever the browser we are giving, right? So let's go for this one. HTTP. So you can just say customer service. Okay. So click on OK. Click on OK. So it will basically it basically asks for the username password if it is not entered. Okay. Get all customer. You can see here 3 operations are there. Get all customers, get customer by ID, get customer. You can see now you have very easily you can trigger these things. Don't need to edit anything at all. You can directly pass it. Very easy. Just click on this button, you will get all the response. Let's click on this one. Again, do this one. Okay, since he's asking, this is expecting the query parameters, right? Basically, you need to pass somewhere. I think query parameters. I don't know how to pass this one. Maybe here you need to pass query. Okay, I don't know. So collection, forget about this one. So query parameters passing this one is a bit difficult here. 188. You can just pass. You don't need to have a structure, right? Everything you can see, all the structure is there. But when you are using a simple one, you don't need to pass all the SOAP level information. Since we are not using now a simple one, you are using SOAP one, we need to have all this one. You don't need this define the structure, entire thing will be difficult. So what it will do, it will parse the visual. It will parse the visual and it will show you the expected input structure, and you can just pass the value. That's all. It will make that much simple to you. So you want to pass anything, header and all the things, you can define all these things, header, basic authentication, all the things you can define here. Authorization somewhere will be there. You can define all the things again. All the options you can define and you can pass these values here. So this is that much easy. You can work with SOAP UI. So if you have access to install, you can install, or else even you can download the bat file and you can run this one. So the main thing is most of the people, right? SOAP UI can be saved and projects can be saved and can trigger it to other persons, and even you can run some test cases. You can make your service as a proxy. Proxy is a mock service. You don't have, let's say I might have need to test this service. Okay, might have test this service, but I don't. My service is not available here. What it will do? Boomi will as a SOAP UI itself, it can host one service, a dummy service, and whatever the response you kept it here, everything will automatically gives you. Maybe something mark, something will be there. You have a lot of options will be there. You can run the test case. You can use a customized Groovy script to pass the first output will be second into second service inputs. You can do many things here. Generate SOAP mark service. Using this one, that's why most of the people will do SOAP. Now, for when the rest is now evolving, people are started using a Git, the Postman. Postman also you have an option of sharing all these collections. You can export and then give it to other persons. Other persons can import it and run it in the Postman. That's the main reason. Other thing is, and you can log in with the Google account. You can access this account anywhere. You can sync it anywhere. You can access here and you can access other system. Any system you can should be able to access. I can say it via cloud version. I can say this one, and you cannot use Visual all the stuff in that. But your SOAP UI is have flexibility when working with Visual. So tomorrow we'll see as of now we have triggered everything, right? Invoking the web services either simple or SOAP, everything from the tools, clients. One is Postman, other one is SOAP UI. But how can we do the same thing in Boomi? How to call that? So for that, we have two options are there. If you want to trigger, if you want to invoke a web services, one is web service, SOAP client connection. SOAP client connector is one option is there. Other one is HTTP client connector is there. There is one more. There is one limited option. Patch is not supported for HTTP client connector. That's the new one is a HTTP patch connector. But it's part of, I can say both are two things, but HTTP client connector does not support the patch operation. Patch HTTP verb. That's why they created a new version, new connector for that. So I can say one you can ignore, you can call, I can say whatever simple we invoke via the Postman, right? Similar things we can do with HTTP client connector, web service server connector. What we did in Postman, we can do the same thing. So these things we'll see in the next session, right? Because it will be difficult to everything grasp. So far, if you have any doubts, you can just go ahead. Or else we'll close this session. Any doubts? Are you there?
No.
Okay. Then we'll close the session. I'll share this recording. So we'll plan for the next session with tomorrow and with this one. Okay, you can practice by tomorrow if you let me know any doubts is there. Okay, then exit. Thank you.